you, Katie was saying where she where do you need her to be off to the side or? Okay. Does she need a microphone? They are gonna be sitting up behind it. Okay, so I think we have somebody sitting at the table here at the panel. Are you here? The question and answer. This is where our panelists are sitting, they're getting asked the question. So I'd ask you to find another seat. Thank you.
Yes.
There you are. And Thomas, this is your time. She knows, I told her at the end of the Q&A. You were chatting with Jared, I didn't interrupt. Nope, that's fine. Okay.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, I am Carmen McPhail, and I am actually the treasurer of the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. So tonight, I'd like to thank you for being here and thank Region 3 for allowing us to utilize their facility, and thank the Lincoln Lakes Region Chamber of Commerce for co-hosting this event with the town. We've done a lot of things together lately, and it's a good partnership. We appreciate your interest in the proposed charter amendment, and we are thankful to our panelists for being here as well. The goal of tonight is to answer as many questions as we can and create additional awareness about the proposed amendment. Please be respectful of everyone in attendance and differing opinions. To begin with, each member of the panel will briefly introduce themselves. Following these introductions, we ask that you raise your hand and wait to be called on so that we can maximize the effectiveness of the session and have respectful, organized conversations. Again, thank you to everyone in attendance for their interest in the proposed amendment. So I'll have you guys introduce yourselves, please.
My name is Keith Strange. I'm the current interim airport manager here at the town of Lincoln.
I'm Bill Thornton, here from Thornton Brothers in Lincoln. I'm the vice president.
Richard Larkin, I'm CEO of Larkin Enterprises. I'm Scott Smith, I'm owner of Fastco Corporation.
So we're going to open it up for questions. Although we're going to start with an easy one. First question that has come to our attention is, why do we need this charter amendment? Ruth Burtz, who has served the town of Lincoln as tax assessor since 1991, is going to answer this question for us, and then we'll take questions from all of you.
Actually, what I was going to do is give you a little history about economic development in the town of Lincoln, because they felt it might be a little eye-opening. If you don't mind, I'm going to take my mask off so you can hear me better. I started working for the town in 1991, but I've been a lifelong resident of the town of Lincoln and certainly have known the different phases of development in the town of Lincoln. In the early 1960s, the town of Lincoln, the mill, actually closed, and it was the residents who took out bond payments and worked with Joe Torres to do whatever was necessary to get the mill started again. Once that happened, the town of Lincoln and the town council has always moved forward with the understanding that they knew that this could happen again. So in my tenure with the town of Lincoln, there's always been a plan with the town council moving forward to keep that possibility in mind and do the necessary steps it would take to attract other industry into the town of Lincoln, because they foresaw the fact that it was very possible that the pulp and paper industry would not stay in the town of Lincoln. And as you know, and as you all understand, we were basically a primary industry town. In other words, one business employed most of our population. So what the town council did was they embarked on a number of conservative things of saving, planning for the future, looking at what they might have to do to encourage business to come to the town of Lincoln. And they've been implementing these things all along. In my tenure of 30 years, they've been doing this the whole entire time. In 2004, what they anticipated and didn't really want to see happen happened. The mill closed. and it shut down, and it was later bought through a bankruptcy sale by Keith Van Scotter. And as you know, the town of Lincoln, or you may not know, but the town of Lincoln worked directly with Mr. Van Scotter, and they implemented a number of different TIFs to help encourage them to open the mill, help them assist, and they did work with the state of Maine and their economic development department to do a number of different economic incentives so they would reopen the mill, which they did, and they ran it successfully until 2014 when they shut their doors. The town council has always moved forward in a manner that was very eye on the future. So in 2014, when the mill went into bankruptcy and no buyer could be found, they worked diligently with the bankruptcy courts to see what was going on. And that's when Jay Hardy was hired. And now, since that time, the town council, under their guidance, directing Jay, has bought portions of the mill at different times through very clever deals. Basically, ND Papers and bought recently a turbine that was scrapped on the mill, and in turn, they paid for one part of the mill and deeded it to the town of Lincoln. So they've done this in a very conservative manner, in a very thoughtful manner to bring in industry to the town of Lincoln. The one thing this charter change has done is that everything has over 100,000, including grant matches, has to go to voter approval. Grants are very, very fragile. You have to apply before them in a timely manner. You have to put your applications in. And a lot of times, if you have to wait for a vote that comes out in June or November to get the proper wording, it doesn't fall in the time frame that a grant does. This charter change is absolutely imperative to be able to give the necessary tools to apply for grants in support of the investments that are looking to locate in Lincoln, because they're looking for us in support in developing infrastructure, cleanup, et cetera. And this will all be done through grant funds. But if we have to go to vote every single time we apply for a grant, it delays the project, and it delays the project for significant amounts of time. So this is why this has come up now, because as you'll hear from this panel, we have a very good potential future investor in the town that will bring hundreds of jobs to Lincoln. So I just wanted to give you a little of the background and a little bit of the history, and we'll move forward with the questions.
So before we actually start with questions, Brian, if you would introduce yourself to the audience, we'd appreciate that.
Good evening, I'm Brian Sweet. I am a member of the RSU 67 School Board. I've lived in Lincoln since 2003, on and off, other than a brief 2-year time away. And there's a reason we came back. We love this town. We love everything it stands for, and certainly want to see success both as a town and for the community, largely, you know, the kids that are here, preserve a future for them.
Thank you. The last thing that I'd like to do before we open the floor completely is, so what are we here for? So we're here to talk about the charter amendment, and I'm not sure if everyone got a copy of what the change is exactly, but right now, section 801 of the town charter says that the capital improvements project of $1,000 or more require an affirmative vote from the voters. The charter amendment changes the words must be approved to shall be subject to overrule by the voters. This change will allow the town council to enter into contracts to spend $100,000 or more on capital items without the voters' pre-approval, but will still leave a way for voters to overrule and overturn the council's vote if they disagree. So the actual wording says all orders or resolves appropriating $100,000 or more for a single capital improvement, and all orders or resolves authorizing general obligation bond issues of $100,000 or more for capital improvement shall be subject to overrule by the voters in a referendum. So that is the change that we are here to discuss. That is the change that they have requested, and that is what will be on the ballot So now we'll take questions. If you have questions, raise your hand and we'll be happy to answer it. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Eric Rojo. I just moved to town last week. I registered to vote. I read this and haven't done with some of these things before. I just wonder, would it not been simpler to raise the amount than to make a confusing statement on the ballot?
The reasoning behind that, I believe Ruth just addressed, but if you,
The reasoning behind that is when you're applying for infrastructure grants and you're applying for brownfield grants, oftentimes the limit, if you set a limit, there's no way to really anticipate what that amount is going to be. We have tools that if it exceeds, say, if it's $500,000, that we can make contracts to recoup that money through TIFs and other type of things like that. But if we put a cap on it, we're limiting what we can apply for, and we don't want to do that because it would limit the development on the mill site. And the idea is to redevelop the mill site so it gets back to, in its heyday, and I am referring to history, it employed over 400 people. And it didn't employ 400 people from Lincoln. It employed 400 people from all the surrounding towns.
Thank you. Very clear.
any other questions? So I do have some other questions that have come up. I think Ruth already has addressed a couple of them. One of them is, why do we want to work with companies like Biofine? What are the benefits for Lincoln residents? And I'm gonna turn to my panel and whichever one of you thinks that you can answer at least part of that, start.
How about this? It seems like a relatively easy answer, right? That's good jobs. That's good jobs that are needed right now. That's not service industry jobs. That is returning good technical jobs. We're sitting here in Region 3, which is an education gem in the region. And that's the sort of work that will allow our kids to have a future in this town without continuing to participate in the Maine brain drain.
I see this as cutting edge technology. So we coming in, we've got a chance as a town to be on the brink of that cutting edge technology. For me, as a contractor, it's a great opportunity for me to put a lot of people to work building, and after it's built, maintaining the facility that's going to be going up there. We fabricate tanks, piping systems, skids, everything will go into a refinery like that. And then we also do the construction of building facilities like that and doing the maintenance on a facility like that once it's up and running. So I couldn't ask for anything more.
I also think it's just, this is just phase one. I think there will be many other companies that will come in to follow, but there's always going to be the first one. But you get the rest, and in this development, this is the initial phase. So we as a member of the Economic Development Committee, I mean, we foresee many other opportunities over the next few years. So I think that Lincoln will have many more than 400 jobs to mention the opening. But in my opinion, it's going to take time. We gotta get to the first phase. We'll get to first base before we can score.
Yeah, and I think as a business in town, having good paying jobs, and I think it's kind of flipped, trade jobs are now becoming good paying jobs. Tradespeople, electricians, plumbers. Those jobs that pay good tend to bring customers to us that can buy vehicles that may not be affordable in the past. it's gonna change the way what we stock and what we have for customers, because cars aren't getting cheaper, they're getting more expensive. We need these good paying jobs to support the town. I think it's a good move for us.
I'd just like to reiterate what Ruth said about timing. Many of these grants have a time frame on them. And a company like Biofine, they like to move forward as quickly as they can because they've got things in place and processes involved. And if there is something in a roadblock that comes along, they're going to stumble. They're not going to like the looks of that. So as this process moves forward, they'll be able to see that the town is taking the initiative to think ahead, that there will be an avenue for these grants as they come along, both for the town and maybe also for Biofine. So certainly, it's almost a win-win situation.
But we do work with another company that has a product very similar to this. And they have heating fuels that are made from biomass we actually put a system in a college up in New Hampshire and in a hospital. So the technology is out there. It is a working technology. But from what I understand, what Biofine has is even more of a refined project, more of a refined product. So it's not an unproven technology.
One of the other questions that has come up is, does this give the council a blank checkbook? It's a legitimate question that I've heard many times because, you know, the history of this town. And if one of you or any of you, including Mr. Bronson, that'd be wonderful.
I would like to respond to that item. The budget of the town, the capital budget and the operating budget, is displayed before anybody who cares to look for months before it's ever adopted. Any person who wants to show up at a budget meeting, any citizen, show up at a budget meeting, or show up in June when the council is finally to the point of passing the budget, is welcome, and they take questions, and there's just no hidden process or agenda here. And now, in our modern era, between Zoom and Facebook, citizens can stay home and see this transpire as it goes on. And the budget lines are reviewed multiple times before they're ever passed. So if you thought you missed the one night that they discussed the police budget or the library budget, it comes up again. And this leaves the citizens the ability to reverse the process that the council would put in place. And so there's just no hidden agenda here. There's no activity that isn't completely out in front of the voters. And if a voter comes in and says, I'd like to see a copy of a piece or maybe the whole unadopted budget before it's adopted, absolutely, we do things like that. So there are many opportunities for the voters to come to understand what is in the budget and see how it is made. You know, people like to say politics is like sausage you don't want to watch, but the reality is you should want to watch, and it's all right out there for people to see. And I answer the phone pretty much every business day, and anyone's got a question about the budget, the current one or the next one, I'm right there and I'll take your call. I literally just take calls as they come in. So there's no open checkbook here for the council. It isn't going to function.
Anyone have any other questions regarding that?
I just want to clarify that this $100,000 limit was established in the early 80s. We live in a different world since the early 80s. Let's face it, everything's on email. We've got to be able to react quicker and more accurately. And this is just one more step in enabling that. I think that's the way I see it. We're trying to sell Lincoln as a viable community to host these businesses. But this is a competitive process. Businesses aren't just waiting outside the gate trying to get in the door here. It takes, we have to do things for them and offer benefits or advantages over the next town, sometimes the next state. I mean, so we're trying to be competitive, and this is part of the process. In my opinion, we should keep this, get updated, get brought up to speed in this 2021.
Yes.
So what would it entail to, like, if you spending $12,000 on something? You object to that, you have to take petition signed and have a vote in the fall, or?
I think the clerk has the best understanding of that.
So basically, if the council was to approve any purchase that was over $100,000 or more, the voters with this new process, if we were to adopt this change, would be subject to overrule. So any 5 voters of the town of Lincoln could come into my office. I would work up the correct paperwork that they would need. Anybody could then take out those petitions and get 10% of the active registered voters of the town of Lincoln. They would have 20 days to return that to the office, at which time it would get turned over to the council to show them if, in fact, that I had certified all those signatures and they had enough. At that point, the council can then decide to call for a special election.
So the council decide if they want to hold a special election for all of them?
No, they don't decide. As long as you have enough signatures, they would have no choice. That would be determined by that.
I would like to point out that there was a time in history where the citizens did just that. It was a regular vote that held by the council. If you remember, Sean, it was when the council voted to lease a new town office. And the citizens did, this has always been in place, took advantage of this, did go to referendum, and did overturn the vote. So we're not taking away the vote of the residents. That's not the purpose of this charter change.
No, I was just wondering, like, say we want to spend $200,000 in February, how long it took to get it on the following June, November, or, to object to that.
No, there's a process.
Yeah.
And
In
you-
this, sorry, in this case, if it was done by a petition, it would be the council would have to schedule a municipal special election within 60 days. Right, through the petition process. It's a little bit different than if it was a normal referendum.
So if I could spend in the meantime, in that 60 days, there's nothing really.
My
turn
understanding,
that.
and correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding of how the overall part of that works was at a council meeting, if the council was to approve a big expenditure, they basically are tied for that 20 days and nothing should happen.
Right.
Then on the 21st day, if nobody had taken out and completed that petition process, then it stands.
Yes,
And just to put a fine point on that, Ian, today, how many registered voters do we have?
We have just shy of 3,340.
So 10% of 3,340 is what you would need to launch a petition. Thank you.
So one of the other questions that came up was, why can't we just have a special election every time then?
I'd like to express an idea with that.
Mhm.
An old next door neighbor has become fatigued with Maine DOT bond issues. So he doesn't read them, he just votes against them all. He doesn't seem to prevail, but that's what he does. He is fatigued with hearing the DOT come to the table annually for more money, more money, more money. I think a similar thing could happen here. If we were to the voters a few times in a year for these sorts of things, I suspect voter fatigue would set in, and we might be reversed or not supported on something that really was important to the community, and yet just out of voter fatigue. And that voter fatigue could even turn into very limited attendance at the polls, in which case a very small number then control. So I think that is one of the reasons we don't want to be involved in constantly sending these to voters. And every election costs money too.
I think the other thing too to point out is even in a special election, there is a certain process that has to take place, and it can still take a month or more. Correct, Ann? You have to have the proper word. It has to be approved by the town council. Then the vote has to be set up, and that has to be a certain time frame. Well, a lot of these grants, you have to have your application in first, just your intent to file. And then in 30 days, you hear if you're approved or not, and then you have to be ready to go. That time frame right there could be a huge missed opportunity for a lot of these circumstances. So even if you had the option, it would still jeopardize taking advantage of some of these opportunities.
Any other thoughts on that, gentlemen? You have another question, sir?
I did, most all your stuff that, you know, I know we're thinking about with bonds and grants and stuff, but most all your stuff is going to spend over $1,000. Would that typically be in like your budget, in like, say you want to spend $150,000, and set aside 75, which you got that, you know, you see covered. So you don't need any voter approval for that, if you just set like equipment reserves like that.
No, you do.
You do.
You do. You still do. We have several capital things that we set aside a certain amount of money every year. And even if we have $200,000 in reserve to pay for that, we still, under this charter, have to go to a special vote to get that approved.
And I might add, when we look at public works and fully equipped plow trucks, we don't need a new one annually, but it's very close to annual. Few years, we might get a year off, we don't have to buy one. Dennis is here, he can speak to that. So do the voters really want every year to have that as a question before them? And again, where does the voter fatigue set in? And then once we've got a lovely snowstorm in front of us, and you wanted the plow truck in front of your house more quickly, you then have voter regret when we didn't end up with the money to buy it.
Bill?
Am I off base, Dennis?
No, and I'd like to add to that by saying that, and also what Mr. Walker said, times have changed. Things are more expensive, equipment costs more money, dump trucks cost more money. It's nearly $200,000 for a fully equipped dump truck now. It'll continue to increase as time goes on.
I think Bill Thornton, who sells vehicles, can certainly attest to the inflation occurring and the cost of those vehicles right now.
Very much so. It's continuously going up in this past year. Inflation has increased dramatically, even more than the wages have. It's going to be to a point where we have to catch up. The prices of vehicles in the financing that's available with the lower interest rates right now is working, as long as we keep the interest rate down.
So just to kind of go a little further, if you were a municipality and you had the heavy machinery and equipment needed to run public works, ambulances, et cetera, would you think $100,000 cap was a severe limit?
Yes.
That part may be able to be addressed with a higher limit if you were to put that in there.
Right.
But I don't believe when it comes to a project that we're looking at, that higher limit would work.
It would not.
So, Brian, if you just, I know that most people here know you, but we've had all of the panelists introduce themselves, so if you would, please.
My name is Late.
The
late Brian, yeah. Apologizes, and I really do apologize. This is a very important meeting. So Brian Sowers of Tree Line right here in Lincoln.
Any other questions? So I do have a couple more that we had gotten from other people that we've spoken to this about. One is, why is the town pushing this change so quickly? And why didn't the public have more notice? So if someone can answer that question, go ahead.
I don't wish to dominate things. In the 4 years I've been here, I and the council have been discussing when it would be the right time to seek this change over pretty much the entire 4 years. So as far as hurry, push, no. And now, because of biofine, we have a need immediately in front of us. The people from biofine have made it clear to us that they want to deal with a municipality that's able to act quickly, give answers, and help them along in that way. There are more than 400 municipalities in Maine. Almost half of them have some form of economic development effort. That means we're competing, directly competing with all of them. And if we can't react faster, give more positive answers, they won't come to us. It's just that simple. So there's no hurry about this. Again, the discussion's been going on for 3.5 years, maybe longer. It may have been happening before I got here.
Go ahead.
So there's no big hurry. Should we have done, could we have done a little bit longer notice? Yes, but we're right here to answer all the questions right now.
Any other questions that people have? Regarding any portion of this, does everyone feel like they understand what we're trying to change and why? Also, do they understand that what the process is currently and what it would change to be?
Along that same line, I'd really appreciate knowing if somebody here that's really concerned about this and, you know, and feels it might not be the right thing or whatever. Does anybody have any concerns about it? Because if they do, I'm sure they're legitimate, like to know what they are and discuss it. Or do you know anybody out there that you've been talking to that is concerned about this, or, you know, has a negative outlook on it?
I was concerned.
Well, should be, right?
I thought it should be.
What were your concerns?
Well, just the concerns of, as a voter, losing the ability to have just a little bit of control on the amount of money that was able to be spent freely. Like, say, if it was just for town expenses, stuff like that. I guess that's why I threw that out there. Could it be controlled with a higher limit on that? Where you actually knew that there's gonna be, you knew what your expenses were going to be. They're gonna be related to town equipment and budgetary things that are out there on a normal basis and everything. Maybe it's a $500,000 limit. But when we start getting into projects where we're dealing with municipal bonds, funding, and stuff like that, grant matching stuff, I just don't know how you can put a limit on.
So would it be considered reasonable that most of the surrounding area has the same type of verbiage in their agreement? Does anybody know that?
Many of the municipalities around us don't even have a charter.
So that was kind of where I was gonna go with it, because I figured you guys could address this, and I think the answer is gonna be self-evident here. You said half of the municipalities in Maine have an economic development program, roughly. And of those half, how many are tied to a $100,000 restriction on capital expenses?
My offhand suspicion is next to none.
There you go.
And those that are incorporated in the cities, literally.
So Rick, I got a question I would have is, are you, I mean, I assume the wording, the wording, you know, the amendment as worded or as written is, you feel is good and appropriate, and it's gonna work
Yes, it
for
was
us.
produced by the town attorney, Andy Hamilton, in concert with Dan Pittman, who's the bond attorney at Eaton Peabody, and they are both comfortable with this. They're the ones that produced the evidence.
And you feel it'll work for the biofines that come along.
Yes, so I just assume hear Jay saying yes to that.
Because I mean, I can, and I apologize because I haven't really studied this like I should have, but I could imagine that there could have been a lot of different ways to propose this amendment.
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little limitation because in Maine law, and I'm gonna get the words wrong here, so one of you will help.
Change it a bit.
There it is, change an amendment. And if we do a complete charter revision, which I tell you this town should do, but I don't think anybody's really ready, it's a real process to put in place a charter commission and really review the entire charter. I've been through it twice, and in both cases, it took over a year. But the courts, May or June, ruled that the city of Portland had made simply a correction to their charter, and that did not require a charter commission. That's what we're attempting to do now, because if we had to put a charter commission in place, a whole bunch of you would be on the commission, and you would meet based on a process that's outlined in state law, and this wouldn't be happening this month.
So if we,
Sometime next year, maybe.
so the wording is so that it's not a change, it's an amendment.
Right.
Gotcha.
Meets that standard, yes.
And it gets the job done that we need done so we can move forward with these.
Yes, I think so.
So this amendment doesn't have to go to vote.
That's it.
It'll be on the.
It'll be on the ballot in
On the
November.
ballot.
I'd like to point out an odd fact. You can all go think about it if you might like. We're not the same as the city of Portland. But the city of Portland, the council can simply vote. They want to spend $28 million on something, they just vote yes, and there they go. Their tax rate is 2/3 that of land. 2/3. So has the Portland Council run away with that and burdened the voters? Again, their tax rate is 2/3 of what you're paying.
On a mill rate.
Mill rate, yeah. So I think at some point we have to trust the process.
I would like to add that over the years, I've seen this handicap cause the council a lot of, I want to say, hard decisions, and I think it's cost the town money.
I would need Dennis to speak about that. We have a street sweeper. We're glad we have a street sweeper. But we bought a street sweeper for the amount of money we bought it for because of this. And it's not a fabulous street sweeper. In fact, it's a relatively poor street sweeper. But that's what has cost us that. And there have been things that by staying under the 100,000 had short lives. Then you buy another one for a few dollars under 100,000. Whereas a little more money, we would have bought a substantially higher quality machine.
Are there any other questions? I know that Mr. Hardy would like to address the entire crowd, but we want to make sure that everyone has had their concerns and questions addressed before we move on to that. I think you're good to go.
I don't want to cut off the conversation, but I hope I can add some things that help understand. I just want to make three kind of observations. One is,
I'm gonna ask you to come up
okay,
next to the camera and. they
that's
can't hear
probably
you.
better. I'll scare the children if they see my face. I'll make three observations. And first is, I work for Lincoln, but I'm not from Lincoln, but I chose to come here and work because I think this is an exciting opportunity. I'll make a couple of observations about Lincoln and
how this town approaches finances. And to use that old Maine expression, I think folks in Lincoln and the Lincoln Town Council pretty much tight as the bark on a tree. I mean, this is not a group of people who spend a lot of money. And if you don't understand that that's the case, look at how Lincoln fared as the mill went down, and the mill rate didn't shoot up. We're lower than a lot of the other communities around, certainly the ones that had closed mills. And part of that is a long, long history of responsible and conservative financial management. And I credit the council, the current council members, and the ones going forward. I think there's been a lot of very wise and conservative decisions made about finance. The other thing that goes with financing is that was made clear to me in my conversations with people in town, but certainly listen to the council. We like to do things with, as they say in the business, OPM, other people's money. We much rather get a grant from the feds or from the state and spend that money first. And if we can get that money, great. And often in order to do that, we need some match money. We need to leverage it, just like the airport project. Everything that we're anticipating is like that. So I think we've got a very firm, responsible, deliberate, and I would say conservative fiscal attitude here. I don't think that's going to change. Now, is it conservative enough for everybody in town? Answer is probably no, because there's some people who would be happy if you didn't spend anything. But that's not really what you can do if you're going to try and provide basic services and also see that the town's able to grow. So that's the first point I make. The second thing that I think I'd like to do is just mention a little bit about, we've talked about this biofine project, but why are we talking about this now? Why has this come up? Because I think that's a theme that's come through. We're looking right now, and this has been reported in the newspaper, it's out there, but we haven't put a lot of information out. Biofine is looking at making a multi-phase investment that's probably going to be $200 to $225 million over the next 3 to 5 years, starting with a plant and an investment that's going to go into the old number 8 tissue building, build out a refinery there. But in order to do that, there's got to be a lot of work done. They're going to invest $100 million to build a refinery, but they came to Lincoln because they saw that we had a lot of the infrastructure, a lot of the pieces there that they need to be successful. But they're on the mill site and they're not in great shape. And so we're going to have to invest some money in that. We've got to clean up that mill site. We've spent now almost $1 million on environmental assessments. We're writing remediation plans. I'm in the middle of working on and putting together grants so we can go after money from the EPA to clean up that. We've got a lot of work to do. Now, to give you an idea, we've got that $200 million investment. I'm looking at other businesses in the construction and building products area that I think can be a cluster of new businesses that could be another $200 million. So we're looking at $400 million of potential new investment over the next, I'd say, easily 5 years, and probably 350 or 400 direct jobs connected with all of that. We're going to put in place new power resources. There's a turbine on the mill site. We're looking at generating our own electricity to serve the folks on that, lower those production and operation costs, help those businesses be successful and competitive over the long haul, and looking at restoring the wastewater treatment plant and bringing the water treatment plant up and providing security, rebuilding the fence and making that site secure. That's an expensive process. I'm sorry to say. You start fencing 250 acres, and that's not like putting up a fence for your dog in your backyard. It's a little bit more than that. I think we're gonna be fencing the deer in, but that's okay too. So that's how that goes. A lot of expenses, road work, access points, many investments. When you look at it, and this is an eye-popping number, but it's important to put it out there. We will end up, and I have estimated that we're probably going to spend over $30 million on infrastructure investments and upgrades on that site, between the cleanup, energy systems, the wastewater system, the access roads and all of that. That's a big number. We're fortunate because we're at a time where the federal government is making an enormous amount of additional money available. We're all hearing the news about this infrastructure program and all that. There's already been a lot of dollars from the American Rescue Plan that's gone to agencies. And just to let you know, I mean, I looked at that number, it scared me. I do these projects and been doing them for years. That's a big number. I've met with EPA and with EDA and with the Northern Border Regional Commission and folks who are funding. And I went to them and said, here's our project. We're gonna need, I said to EPA, we're gonna need $15 million from you guys. And I expected to get rolled out of the room, and they said, we can do that. We're gonna have that money. This is a great project. These are the kind of projects we want to be doing. You're ready to go. Raised the same question with EDA. And they said, we're gonna need $15 million from you to make this nut. They said, the guy said, well, I'd rather, if it was 10, that would be easy. But we've done projects as big as $40 million out of our office. And so I think we can do 15. Nobody's laughed me out. These are very big projects. When we get that amount of federal money, if we still have to go through follow the charter today, just to spend that money, that's somebody else's money. We got to go to the voter. And what if somebody says, oh, I don't like that idea. I don't want to do that. Suddenly, we've raised the money. We've got the commitment from the federal government. We've got this business ready to go. And somebody says, bad idea. Let's blow this up. And so that's what we're facing. And the reason that we're doing this now and we have this window is because here's what a business like a Biofine needs. There's one word, and if you don't remember anything else I say, remember this word because I think it's why we need this charter change. And that's predictability. Businesses want predictability. Carmen, I know you sell real estate, and people who are buying real estate, they want predictability. That's why we do, for example, home inspections. People look at a place. If you're getting a mortgage, the mortgage lenders want predictability. These guys are going to be able to pay off the mortgage. Is the house worth it? That's why you go through all that process. You go through an excruciating process for a $200,000 house. Imagine the process that the bank and folks put you through for a $200 million project. And that's why predictability is so important. And any little thing that could chip this off is something that makes people say, oh, it's all about risk. It's all about risk management in this business. And they look at that and say, lack of predictability, big risk. We don't want to make that investment. We're going to walk away. And the reason we brought this forward now, and as Rick said, this has been on the council agenda and in discussion since I've been in Lincoln for over 3 years. Now it is that we've got a business that says we're willing to invest $200 million and create all these jobs. What we want from you, Lincoln, is we want to be your partner. And we want to make sure that we get predictable results back. That when you say, we're going to go and get this money from the federal government and we're going to spend it to restore this infrastructure so that you can operate, that they say, these guys can do that and there isn't anything to hold it up. There's not, oh, we've got to wait till November and put it on the ballot and have it voted on, and then we'll tell you. Nobody's going to be able to get a decision from an investor or a bank or anybody else if there's that extra step in the process. that creates uncertainty, a lack of predictability. And so that's really what we're doing here, is making it possible for us to move these projects forward. I'm excited about it. I can't tell you for sure, but my guess is if we don't make this charter change, very good chance that this company's going to say, you know, there are other places where we can get more predictability. And our failure here will create an opportunity for another town to attract this investment, this new tax base, a new generation of different kind of jobs that are related to what we do, because this is all about the forest products industry. And it's all about using the assets that we have on the mill and being responsible and reusing those assets, and creating something sustainable that I think will serve the next generation and the generation after that of folks in Lincoln coming along. So I'm excited about it. I don't think that this is a difficult decision to make, but I think it's a really important one. And I think we're sending a message to businesses. We've been proud to have that sign that was put up that says, you know, Lincoln open for business. Making this kind of an action is really our way of drawing a line into that, saying, yeah, we really are open for business. You're going to be able, what you see is what you get. It's going to be predictable. We're going to lay it out for you. We'll work with you. And if we say we can do this, we can do it. And, you know, now I can say, I feel confident we can raise this money from federal sources. So that's my pitch, and I'm sticking with it.
Can I add to what Jay just said? I'll second what Jay just said. When Jay and I met the biofine people in April in southern Maine, everything seemed nice, seemed good, it's the direction we'd like to go. After we were out of that meeting, Jay and I discussed, are we going to tell these people that to do business with the town of Lincoln in any larger scale is going to be subject to a vote from the voters over a financial arrangement? And we concluded, we have to tell them. We have no other, to be honest, just tell them. That's the way it works here based on the charter. I heard them drawing a breath very solidly for a couple of weeks. Then they cooperated with Jay and they've been doing all the background things they can, getting ready. But they are sitting in southern Maine waiting to see the result of this vote. They are very much sitting there waiting to see what the people of Lincoln do. And we're gonna know in a couple of weeks. I really hope you will let Lincoln move forward.
So a couple things. One is, how do we message, you know, between now and what's the date on the vote?
November 2nd.
You know what I'm saying? So how, between now and November 2nd, how do we, how, you know, I mean, I don't think even if everybody in this room votes yes, it's not enough votes probably.
Clearly not.
So how, what do we do? How do we go forward? How do we message this? One of the things I think we have to be really careful about is the idea that we're going to spend $30 million, because it sounds like, you know, it has to, that would scare people.
I agree. And that's why we, that number.
And what we're, yeah, but the message really is we're going to raise 30 million
Exactly.
and make use of it to the benefit Lincoln. Okay.
But when somebody gives us that money to spend
Mhm.
and the town of Lincoln appropriates it, we are subject to this charter provision.
Then it's really.
Even if it's somebody else's money.
Right.
And so, and there's the hang up. I can raise that money.
Right.
And if we raise it and the voters say, no, you can't spend it, then we turn it back and the project goes away.
Right. But here, if people open up the Lincoln News on, you know, next Thursday and read that at this meeting was decided, it was talking about the fact that Lincoln is looking at spending $30 million for business development for the next few years. And that's why we need this charter amendment. That's not probably going to help our cause.
No, but you're right. Your language is right, Brian.
Right.
And that is, we're looking to raise 30. That's why I started by saying it's, we're talking about other people's money here.
Right.
And it's not other people's money, it's our money, but it's federal money that we want to bring into Lincoln, because that kind of money gets spent every place else. And I'll tell you, if it doesn't come to Lincoln, get spent on this project, it's going to go to Kentucky or South Alabama or someplace else, it's gonna be spent, yeah, it's gonna be spent. It's just not gonna be spent here and create new investment. I mean, that amount of federal money will leverage hundreds of millions of dollars of new investment and hundreds of new jobs.
Right, my point is, there's an excellent message there, but it just has to be framed right, obviously, and we got, looks like a couple of weeks to do it.
I suggest that everybody in this room knows people that aren't in this room.
Right.
And I think when you're at the supermarket and over the backyard fence, and when you're on the sidewalk, I think you have got to be telling people, this is needed, it's needed now, so please go vote, to help the town move this forward. I really think it's a networking thing from you people out to the other.
And Brian, just to make it more real, between now and the end of the year, I probably will be working with these federal agencies to write grant proposals for probably the first 10 or $15 million of this money. I can't do that if this fails. And if we can't raise that money, and I can't try and get the grant machine cranked up and the thing, and we can't raise that money, then BioFund can't do their project, because the only other way to pay for that infrastructure is to say, well, you guys have to do it. And that makes the project more expensive for them. They came here because the raw material was on the mill site, but they know that it needs to be updated. And they're going to be spending their money building the refinery. They don't want to be spending the money rebuilding the wastewater treatment plant or the turbine or any of these other pieces. They want those on site, and they shopped and looked at towns that have that. And there are towns around who can offer some of that that's in better shape than what we've got. Different configuration. I mean, you can go to Millinocket, you got Brookfield, and you got the electrical energy right there. You know, and so that's out there. The other communities can offer what we're trying to offer too.
Do we have anything on the town website right now that educate people about this?
Yes, but
Yes.
Katie would be the best to speak to it.
We do have a bunch of information on the website. It's when you go to the homepage, there's information about this session, which will come down, and then there's a section about just the amendment that explains what it is, the different purposes for having the amendment. It has links to the brochure that you might have picked up today and to a flyer. And after this meeting, it'll also have this video that from the live stream that we're doing right now. So yeah, that's all on the website.
We have the Lincoln News here, right?
I think a few years ago, we had the Lincoln News do articles on each one of the candidates running for the town council. And they had a article in there on what the residents wanted to see. And over and over and over, the comment made by the residents in the town of Lincoln was, we want to see the mill site redeveloped. We want to see jobs come into Lincoln. But we have the potential for that. It's just that we need to get the information out and let the residents know that they're still going to have a say. They're still going to have a vote if they think a decision is made that they don't agree with. But what we need them to do is just what they've always done, and that's agree to make the opportunities to make this happen. The town of Lincoln did it in the 60s, they did it in 2004. The town council's always been pro-economic development. Well, now we have somebody knocking at the door. We just need this tool to move forward. And I think we need to we need to reassure is a much better word, that this is all about what they wanted in the first place. It's about providing jobs, life-sustaining jobs and opportunity that will keep people here, put more kids in school. The enrollment in the schools are still declining, to my knowledge. Is that correct? No?
That's not correct, but nonetheless, it's what we
Nonetheless,
need.
but the more
Nonetheless, it's, yes,
students we have, the healthier our school is, correct?
yes.
So more people working here and life-sustaining jobs brings more students to the schools. The hospital has stated that one of their #1 reasons for their financial hardships was because the health insurance and the jobs were lost at the Lincoln Mill. This would also add to the sustainability of our health agencies in town, Health Access, and Penobscot Valley Hospital. I think the thing that people, being the tax assessor, I see this firsthand. Investment in Lincoln means a larger tax base, means more people buying property, more people investing in town, more people coming to town, more businesses seeing that more services are needed, so it has a ripple effect. So I think we need to assure residents that they're not losing their say in what goes on. They're just providing the tools to move Lincoln forward, maybe for another 100 years, like the pulp and paper industry did. And I think if we get that message out, that reassurance, like you said, Scott, that you were worried about, and made you a little nervous, I think that would be helpful.
I think, and I came here saying I'm going to be the moderator and I'm not going to speak, but I think one of the things that really resonates with me is the piece of information that we weren't thinking about until it was mentioned tonight. We still have to work within the town budget. It's not like we're creating extra money to spend that we don't have and that we didn't plan to have. So it's not like, okay, we're gonna raise your taxes because we're gonna spend this money. It's, we already have this budget. We just need to be able to spend it when it's needed instead of waiting until November for you to say, yes, spend the money you already approved. So I think that's a really important piece to this that is a very sticking point with a lot of people that I've spoken to and a lot of people in this town from past experience. So I think that that is something that we as a group need to make sure that people understand. Number one, you know, it's a timing thing. Number two, we're still having to work within the town budget. And number three, it's all about development. It's about being able to be liquid enough for developers to come and being able to react quickly enough to help them to spend their money.
I would add a number 4 to that. And the number 4 is, with this new charter language, if the voters do not like the decision that's made, even if it's not spending the town's money, but it's getting money from somebody else and allocating, you don't like that. You've just got to organize and get
Well, and
10% of the voters do a petition, and you don't lose a single thing in terms of your ability to affect that decision. It's a change in the process only. It doesn't take any of your rights to be participating away. It just means there's a process here that has to go through. It improves the predictability for the businesses. But it also ensures that everybody in town still gets their voice heard. And if they feel strongly about it, they can certainly bring it up. And I guarantee the council will be responsive to that.
I wish I'd be quiet.
We'll
Article
put that to a
6
vote.
I can make that happen.
Article 6 of the town charter conflicts Article 8 of the town charter now, and that's on this topic. And the two pieces conflict each other. With what is now proposed, that will be resolved and cleaned up. The fact is, we could have voters today come forward and contest with the town, here's what you did, and based on Article 6, this is our rationale. Other voters would come forward and say, no, based on Article 8, this is what you have to do, and this is our rationale. We really like to clean this four columns.
So if anyone has any other comments that they'd like to make or any other questions that they'd like to pose, this is the time to do that because it's 7 o'clock.
So Rick and Jay, is there, do you guys have a game plan between now and the 2nd to promote, educate, and so forth, you know, but will, obviously, I mean, I'll do everything I can to word of mouth and through our company, employees and so forth, but do you have a plan?
Yes, we are continuing with more. Katie will be doing some of it. The council approved a small amount of money this past Monday for us to effectively advertise and promote this position. And so we'll do that. My understanding of the world is that a few days after the vote, someone will call me up to say, I never heard anything about
I
it.
know.
There's always that person, okay? But we're trying to get to as many as possible.
But I think, Brian, you've got the right thing. It's that outreach, that personal outreach. This is gonna be the November ballot. There's not a lot on it, although a couple of council members are up, there's a couple of council seats up for election. There are these other statewide referenda, and then there's this local one. I think encouraging people to get out and vote and to vote in favor of this, every single vote is going to count, and every person that you can touch and convince to go out and vote will be very helpful.
Katie, I know you, I appreciate you came to our office and so that was great. Have you been able to do that with a lot of the local businesses?
I haven't gotten to go out and do as much. Honestly, I'm doing part-time, so I've done a lot of work creating the marketing materials for this. And the way that I thought my time was better spent was creating a really clear flyer that explained what this was and why it was important. And that went out to all Lincoln residents in the newspaper this week. So I did that. And, I do have some time next week, so I'll be doing more outreach.
You put Jay's phone number on that brochure?
One
Now,
of the
she wants
things,
people to vote in favor.
one of the things that worked very well,
You don't want to run
and I'm
people's
going to
phone bill
address
up.
this to the panel, one of the things that worked very well in the airport campaign, because we did have a campaign for that, is that we had testimonials from well-respected business people in the community. I think I've used that phrase a lot when I've talked to all you gentlemen. So I guess my question, if Katie approached you to just make a statement that she could put out on social media and stuff, the importance of this, would you be willing to participate in something like that? So you might get another call.
Make more work for you.
Better use than the filter.
Ruth, I think anyone here, I mean, it doesn't have to be a business owner. I think anybody here would have just as much impact or.
I agree, but we need to get this out so it's
Yeah,
understandable.
Yeah, but I would encourage Katie to reach out to a broad cross-section of people.
I agree. There are a lot of authorities on this and authority figures in town. And the more of them that we can get saying, go and vote, this is a good thing, the better we'll be.
And when you post this video, it will be completely shareable, correct?
Yeah, so it's actually live right now on Facebook. You can share it now if you want it. And it will go on the website as well.
If that is all, have a nice, safe evening, and don't forget one thing, spread the word.
Yes, great.